Okay, hi everybody. So this is video two. Let's get it started. Play from the start. Okay, so this is video two, and it's about the academic fraud allegations, which are unfounded, baseless, fabricated. The funny thing is that I'm being accused of fabricating sources when it's them who lie and who fabricate and project that onto ethical, researchers who actually do their work. So anyway, why are they doing all this? So if you look at over here on the right, there's the success of my master's research. So how dare I go and do authentic Indigenous research for my master's thesis and actually get away with that? So they're going to teach me a lesson, and also it's very well read. Like I mean, this is just the first. This is just ResearchGate, but my research has been downloaded from many thousands of times from other repositories at Laurentian University, Academia EDU, and all these various places. Okay, so why are they doing it? Because they resent my success, because they're inadequate, incapable thinkers their own selves, like they suffer brain damage from all this violence, which is what they spend most of their hours on. Three, because how dare I try to get away with doing real First Nations research after they dehumanized and genocided many First Nations who have tried the same thing. And four, because I refuse to accept the devaluing of my research and their rewriting of it, which is a standard method that they do to dehumanize. It's standard racism, and this is well documented in the literature. They've been doing this stuff for 30 years, and they never update their methods. I can't believe how incapable they are of even thinking of anything new. And five, because I do not guzzle the indignities the way that they do. Six, because to ruin my research and my reputation. So I'm going to have to defend against that. And seven, to inflict as much trauma onto me as possible. And eight, to use the trauma and the dehumanization to genocide me. They hope I die, and these are awful people. Next, who is doing all this? Okay, so it is my view that Orly Lakasan, who is 6 months older than me, who I've known for 15 years, who was on, sorry, I'm just having some trouble here. But who was on my research committee. I can't even read it because I can't move this thing out of the way. There we go. Okay, who was on my committee for my previous philosophical inquiry and who offered to supervise my research, my PhD research. It's my view that she was recruited to set me up for all this by the usual suspects, okay, that resent me and all those things from before. So these usual suspects are racists and genociders who resent me and who do not appreciate my personal research and advocacy for erased genocide survivors and who have been involved in much racism and genocide against First Nations already. So these are people all over Sudbury, Laurentian University, of course, St. Paul University, a dangerous cult, and a fake university. All the universities are fake. Like, I mean, it's really starting to come out that academia has degenerated into just complete fakery. Okay, it's all sham scams, people. This is the thing. So then the tri-council agencies, CIHR, where I have experience, where I worked when Carrie Barassa was scientific director of the Institute of Indigenous Peoples Health, okay? SHIRK, where I have experience, they were responsible for that fake role that I had, that I was given on the fake Indigenous leadership and research circle. In 2022, I did a big expose. I wrote a report that nobody asked for. It was an idea that Harry Laforme later grabbed for me. It's a good idea. I wrote a report and I detailed all of the things that are going on, and then I exposed all that after they kicked me out. And CIRC, right? So that's the scientific. So CIHR is health, SHIRK is the social, and NSERC is the science, the hard sciences, the bench science, okay? And so then those three tri-council agencies with the CFI, the Canadian Foundation for Innovation, they're very high-level officers were involved in that racism against me, and these are the people that are involved in this stuff and interested in making sure that I suffer and that that I'm humiliated at St. Paul University, and that and they're after my reputation and all this kind of stuff. And then they're also trying to genocide me, and all these are all things I have to defend against. Doki's First Nation. If you saw, I have some evidence about how they're in cahoots with St. Paul University to destroy my research and my reputation and my future and all these things. They're awful people. And of course, the government of Canada, Justin Trudeau, the ministers responsible for all this kind of stuff, Mr. Champagne, after that, Anita Anand for like 3 days. And now I think it's Jolie. So this is it. And there's many other people. Like, I mean, there's a lot of them that are they're French speaking. They're from the Sudbury area or the French River. Okay. They're fake Métis. They're pretendians. They're all over the place. They're interested in extracting Indigenous research and using it for their, identity wars and like to get rich and, abolition agendas and all this other kind of garbage. And they're perverting it and they're exploiting it and they're extracting and they want to get away with that and they want to do all this kind of abuse with impunity. And nobody's going to tell me that none of these people don't have an interest in the theft of our annuities that's going on at Doki's First Nation and the theft of our other resources that goes on at Doki's First Nation, because I know that some of them must be. Okay, so what have they been up to? So they cahooted a plan to ruin my research, my reputation, and to genocide me. So I definitely have to defend against that. That's the reasons why I'm putting this up here. Two, they ignored my entire career of high-level research experience and treated me as if I have nothing. They treated me as if I just walked in here out of undergrad. I have reason to suspect that better grades and opportunities have been granted to students with much less experience who produce work that reflects a lower level of expertise and or effort. Okay. So there's one other person in my cohort and that person gets all the support and that person gets all the opportunities and that person is not an outstanding student in any way, shape or form. Not remarkable at all. Number three, the first year of coursework went okay. Okay. So that from 2023 to 2024, it went okay through fall, winter, spring. And then fall 2024, that's when stuff started to pick up. So if you remember what happened in 2024 in the fall is that I started with Dr. Mackey. Now, the first day of Dr. Mackey's class, Dr. Mackey pretended that they didn't know who I am. When in reality, all of these people are totally obsessed with my socials and completely obsessed with me. And so that's when I knew, all right, I see what's going on here. Like to act as if you haven't even discussed my work in a meeting with other faculty is just ridiculous. And so then I could see what was going on. And then that's when they must have decided after my comps, my comprehensive exams in the spring term prior, that they were going to start devaluing my work this way. And it's all cahooting. So then what happened with the Mackey thing is that, I had a meeting with Dr. Mackey in the beginning to sort of gauge what's going on. And I realized that I'm not going to get anywhere with Dr. Mackey. And then, so I decided to do like my complaining and stuff. It started online. So the point I'm making with complaining online, like also I don't file formal reports because I know how they weaponize that. Like I have a lot of experience that's being erased, right? So if you have a look at my CV, which is available on the LinkedIn, you'll see all that experience. And so then, I've been in and out of academia for over 20 years. And in my experience in student services and also student government, my personal experience, like my mother had to fight a whole whack of racism at UBC 30 years ago. Like I have a lot of experience with all this kind of stuff and I know how this all goes. Like, we're not dumb and we're not green anymore. And still they don't update any of their methods and they just keep like they replay the program over and over. Like they're programmed and they're just doing what they're programmed to do over and over and they never come up with anything that's like they never come up with any innovations in this violence or anything. And so also they waited until the final course of my coursework, which is Amanda Wilson's class, which is what we're talking about here, to voice their opposition to the core of my research, which is that philosophy is being devalued and that is very problematic for the Anishinaabe because our entire worldview is based on, philosophical types of ideas and concepts. And so then that was erased and they waited until the very last course of coursework before I go off to do my research. They waited until then to start saying, oh well, we have like to indicate that they have some kind of problem with it. When I've been talking about it for by that time a year and a half, and when I first got to my first class in the fall of 2023, it was with Amanda Wilson, and so I was explaining to everybody about philosophy, how important it is, and how it's being devalued, and how that's why I want to work on it, and I want to do all this knowledge translation for the benefit of the youth and all that kind of stuff. That all started then. And then they waited for all the way until the last course. So I started with Amanda Wilson and I ended with Amanda Wilson. And Amanda Wilson is the one whose name is on this harassment complaint as well. The reason for all that is because Amanda Wilson has tenure. Okay. And so what they do is they put the person with tenure up to like put their name on all the violence. And then that way, if for any reason that any like finding were to happen in my favor, which I have absolutely no confidence that it will be, even though, all the evidence shows that it should be, even if if there were any finding in my favor, nothing will happen to the tenured professor. That's why they do that. Like these are really old methods. Like I said, it's been done over and over and over again. Everybody knows about this stuff, and it's well documented in the literature. So here we go next. Okay, so what have they been up to? Amanda Wilson erased the core of my research and rewrote it to suit her worldview and that of the academic industrial complex. Okay, we're going to look at that later. And to turn it from real First Nations research into fake First Nations research, okay? And they've done this many times over to many, many First Nations grad students. So then when I first refused to accept the erasure of the core of my First Nations research and the rewriting of it and the dehumanization that comes with being trained in those racist methods, like they know that that we're learning that, like in masters, I learned that from the mentors, I learned that. And we all are reading this literature, including, people like Amanda Wilson and Chris Mackey are hyper fixated on this literature because they're always trying to extract from it what they can use for their identity wars and their abolition, agendas and all this kind of stuff. And so then they're also very familiar and trained in that. And so then what they do is that you learn about all that, you get all the way to a PhD, and then they administer that they look you straight in the eye and they make sure that you understand that, they're going to do this and they're going to get away with it too. And they make sure that you see that. And that's these are terribly awful people, heartless, soulless, mindless people, okay? And they are brutal. This is brutal. This is genocide is what I'm saying, okay? And so then so then having it piled onto me by professors who are also trained in that violence, and then they begin the intimidation tactics such as bringing in the vice rector of academic research into the class to intimidate me. So we're going to talk about that in a bit. Okay, so here's the erasure. This is what originally happened with design spine 1. There were 3 iterations of the design spine, which is really just it's just an outline of your proposal, like on 1 page or no more than 3 pages. So you'll see my original problem statement on the left. In the middle, you see Amanda Wilson's rewrite, which is highlighted, literally rewrote it. And then on the very left here, you see my problems with that. Philosophy is being devalued, the marginalization, my lived experience. Also, your feedback erases the problem, on and on and on and on. I have other questions like, why are you telling me that I can't use Americans' references? Why are you saying that I have to restrict my references to the last 10 or 15 years when I'm talking about ontology? Like I literally was accepted into the university, into the PhD program based on a 1-page proposal on, indigenous ontologies of reality construction. And so these are that's ridiculous feedback. And it's not okay. And that's why it all started kind of from the writing like informal complaints, like in emails, like in written form. That started with this, and that's how this all went. So, for example, I complained of racism, okay, in writing, here it is. And then Simon Tremblay Pepin, who is the interim director of the School of Social Innovation. Everybody's interim because, I can't even believe it, but whoever is supposed to be the real director, whoever is supposed to be the real dean, whatever their plans are for like permanent positions, all that's on hold until they can erase me from the university and genocide me out, okay? And so it's amazing that everybody's like, the dean is an interim dean, a whole bunch of people on the Senate that are going to be talked about in video 3. That's all, a bunch of them are interim and all this kind of stuff, okay? So Simon Tremblay Pepin gaslit me, and Orly didn't advocate for me at all. Crickets from Orly through all of this, okay? So, here's my questions. And what does Simon Tremblay Pepin say? I don't see that. I don't see this. Next, I don't see erasure of like blah, 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 blah. So this is just all gaslighting, like, just dismissing, erasing, go and die, We don't have to like take anything seriously. That's what this is. It's gaslighting, it's dismissal, it's erasure. Next, I don't see Dr. Wilson research, erasing this. I don't see Dr. Wilson making a judgment of whatever. I don't see you. You don't exist. Go away, go and die. Okay, so this is what this is. And so I show you that. So here's a timeline that I submitted to the other administrative process that we'll be talking about in June, but it's helpful here. So February 10th, after submitting the design spine on January 29th, I got that feedback where she literally erased it. So then that situation prompted a meeting with Amanda Wilson on February 10th and that list of questions that I just showed you before. So Amanda Wilson expected us to meet about this when I'm complaining about racism and dehumanization and erasure after, like I'm known for being an advocate for erased genocide survivors. She says that she expects us to meet in the atelier. Now, I understand that atelier means workshop in French. Okay, so this is like a workshop space and it's very open. There's some rooms like that can be used for meetings or I guess classes, but like there's the walls are glass, so you can see into there and you can also hear what's going on. And every Monday that we have class in that atelier, there's always other students, including her student Jen, who just recently defended her PhD on disability funding and stuff. um, and there was people in the atelier like there is every Monday when we had that class. I think some of them had to be there and they were expected to be there for a reason. And so then I found that unprofessional, insensitive, unethical, and a breach of confidentiality considering these circumstances. And I requested a better location over email. And it's my position that my concerns were dismissed by Amanda Wilson on February 10th without any academic reasoning or logic for the dismissal. And she terminated the meeting like very shortly after it had begun because she had no response to any of my questions other than gaslighting. Okay. So she can't explain why are you erasing all of my, why are you erasing my entire career of research as if I just got here out of undergrad and I'm like, 23 years old. No answer. Why are you acting as if I have to why are you acting like you never heard about the core of my research being philosophy is devalued and how that problematic that is for from the Anishinaabe worldview. And, that's the reason that I've been talking about since I got here in your class in 2023. No answer for that, right? Like, why are you pretending like I have to use only Canadian references in the last 10 or 15 years when I was literally accepted into this program on philosophical research on ontology? Okay. The literature on that goes very far back and is, quite thick. You see what I'm saying? And so all that stuff is ridiculous. No answer to that. So when somebody has nothing but gaslighting, that's a very uncomfortable situation to be in. And so that's why Amanda Wilson terminated the meeting. And then she told all of these investigators and so on that she terminated it because of whatever it's harassment that they're trying to say about me or whatever, eh? So it's somehow connected to that whole harassment thing is the reason why who knows? But that's not why. It's because she has no answers and she has nothing but gaslighting and there's no excuse for this kind of unethical BS. That's why. So February 17th to the 21st is reading week and there were no classes. And that's important because on February 21st, which is the Friday, the last day of reading week, that's when they all got together. Amanda Wilson, Tremblay Pepin, Chris Mackey's probably involved in that. Even Orly Lacassan, these people are named in this complaint. Heather Eaton is involved in that, being on the executive of their full-time professors union at SPU. And so then they developed a complaint at a formal administrative investigation was launched, and the complaint is dated that Friday, the February 21st. But I wasn't notified about it until the 24th while I was in class. That's coming later. So on the 22nd, which is on the weekend, so that would be, I guess, Saturday. And so then Dr. Wilson sent an email to all of us students that our class on Monday is going to be in the official classroom, not in the atelier, where we had been meeting every occasion before that. Okay. So, and there was no explanation for why that is. So the February 24th, so that's the day all the shit hit the fan or whatever, and that's why there's a whole screen on just that one day. So at 9:30, that's when the class started instead of the official time of 9, and it was the same in her fall class in 2023. So I never missed a class without an excellent reason. I arrived at 9:30 in the official classroom and I noticed that Dr. Jean-Marc Barrette was present. Okay, so I didn't know who Dr. Barrette was at the time or his association with SPU. So Amanda Wilson introduced him as an observer, and that was it. So at the break, I asked Dr. Barrette for his name and he handed me his card. And so that's how I saw that he is Vice Rector Academic and Research. So then on February 25th, the day after this, I emailed Dr. Barrett and I asked him for the official reason why he attended our class. And to date, I've received no response to that question. It's my position that Dr. Barrett attended that class to intimidate me and to notify those who were ready with this retaliatory administrative process to notify me of it, which was Madame Carol Audette who did that. And that occurred at 10:17 a.m. And I have all the receipts. So between 9:30 and 10:10, so Amanda Wilson provided instructions to the class on Design Spine 2. Okay, so you remember Design Spine 1 is where she erased the core of my research. So those instructions included directions to incorporate her feedback from Design Spine 1 and how we're addressing that feedback for consideration in the grade of Design Spine 2. That's a problem for me since I already addressed the feedback more than once. I raised my hand, I raised my concerns, asking why I'm being instructed to address the feedback that I already addressed. And Amanda Wilson told me that we're going to meet after class about it. In my view, this is how the academic industrial complex coerces and pressures Indigenous students to accept the erasure of authentic Indigenous research and instead proceed with fake research, such as that found in Amanda Wilson's rewrite of February 5th. So Dr. Barrett was there to reinforce this coercion and to pressure me to accept the dehumanization, which many PhDs do decide to do in the similar circumstances. Like it's not the first time they brought in a VP or, you know, in this case, a vice rector into these class situations to put that kind of intimidation on a First Nation student. Definitely not the first time. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of the Indigenous students, grad students have to go along with this status quo. I don't know what they figure. I guess they think like, okay, well, if I have to do fake research, like you also have to go into the community and do fake research with the people, and they know that you're full of it. Okay, like this is it's so dehumanizing and racist. So, but I guess these PhDs and these other grad students, you know, they figure, well, maybe if I do this fake research, I can do real research after I get my degree or whatever it is. But in my case, I'm like, you know, we're 30 years into this kind of racism and abuse, and I'm saying no. So then at 10:12, I wrote an email to Dr. Simon Tremblay-Pepin, Amanda Wilson, and Arlie Lacassan, expressing my concerns with Amanda Wilson's instruction in her class moments before. So questions included, you know, it's a long email. Of course, I have all this documentation, but questions, examples are like, why would I address these issues again on the upcoming assignment when I've already done so, right? So obviously they expect me to change my position, right, on the erasure of the core of my research. So what kind of penalty should I expect if I do not erase the core of my research so that it agrees with Dr. Wilson's rewrite? What kind of penalty should I expect if I do not pretend that my research can or should be limited to the Canadian context or of the last 10, 15 years, on and on, this kind of thing? How do I proceed? That's the kind of stuff. So I received notice at 10:17 a.m. after I raised my concerns and Dr. Barrett seen all that. I think that he prompted Madame Audette to send me that retaliatory administrative complaint, which arrived in my mailbox at 10:17 on February 24th. So originally filed by Amanda Wilson and the Professors Union via Heather Eaton on February 21st, like I said, the Friday before. Last day of reading week, 1 week and 4 days after my meeting with Amanda Wilson on February 10th. So it's my position that Dr. Barrett ordered Madame Audette to send me the notification after I resisted their attempt to coerce and pressure me into accepting the dehumanizing instructions given by Amanda Wilson moments before. So Amanda Wilson excused the class for a break. Class ends at noon. After reading the information submitted by Dr. Eaton, which stated that I should not be allowed to attend the class or be around Dr. Mackey or Wilson, I decided it was best to leave campus at the break. And so I did not return to class after the break. I left. So holy crow, who are these losers? So here's the 6 to get started. And then there's 3 more now. Like in video 1, you've seen 3 more. And then they got a whole nother whack coming down. And that's going to be talked about in video 3. And there's a lot of people being implicated. I guess I warned them against that. But here we go. So Amanda Wilson, Chris Mackey, Jean-Marc Barrette, Simon Tremblay-Pepin. I mean, look at this guy. Look. That's the look on their face they give you when they're genociding you, like literally. Heather Eaton and Orly Lakasan, okay? And there's going to be more when we get into it. So the second onslaught of administrative violence against me, fabricated and false accusations of academic fraud. The first, so that's the second one. That's what we're talking about today. The first one, like I said, that's probably going to be more in June. So you'll see on the right here that I submitted the final assignment for INS 8130, which is a doctoral seminar, and that's important. It comes up again later in video 3. I submitted it at 2:13 a.m. after working days on it, after having a really long day on the last day. And the last thing that I did was pull together my references from because like at this point, it had been a conglomeration of all my work over 2 years. So I was pulling references from like my files that span the whole 2 years. So this is like I don't like it comes up later, but I don't know exactly how between 1 a.m. and 2:13 a.m. that like 5 of these references got all jumbled up. I'm not sure exactly how that happened. But but it was just mistake, and it was not like it's not like I fabricated sources to use and that I don't have like actual real authentic foundations for my ideas and real evidence that goes back to actual research, because I do. I have authentic sources. That's the point of this. So I was removed from Amanda Wilson's class because Amanda Wilson has no answers to any of my concerns besides gaslighting. This is an unbearable situation for someone like Amanda Wilson. Removing the First Nation student from the class is included in the methods of how they teach students to erase First Nations. Simon Tremblay Pepin is included in the administrative violence that was launched onto me on February 24th. And therefore, he's in a clear conflict and should not, conflict of interest. And he shouldn't even be grading my work in the first place. No one even, everybody ignores this. Like, no one has addressed that ever once. So I was graded at 85% at everything that Simon Tremblay Pepin marked. I informally contested every grade I got, and I informally complained of racism in writing on several occasions. And of course, I have all those receipts. So I submitted the last assignment for Amanda Wilson's class, INS 8130, to Simon Tremblay Pepin, 2 hours and 13 minutes late, technically at 2:13 a.m. on April 22nd, 2025. My last task was of that evening was compiling that list, like I said, where from many files that spread across all of my SPU files over my 2 years at SPU. So as I am sure they always do, STP checked my sources, and Simon Tremblay Pepin found 5 errors. He did not contact me about his concerns or seek an explanation before he launched a formal academic fraud allegation accusing me of fabricating fraudulent sources. That's what the complaint is. So here is the original fraud letter. Fraud report letter, okay? So it's important to note that this is a doctoral seminar, and it prepares for the writing of the thesis proposal. That's so in spring, like I'm registered right now for spring, and that's what I'm supposed to be working on is my final proposal. Instead, I'm working on all this BS, but that's important, and it comes up in video 3. So he's saying that he checked it because he wanted to see the definition of transdisciplinarity, which I'm using to address some of the spiritual, for Indigenous people, like epistemologically speaking, like what is knowledge? How do you get it? How do we know? And where does it come from? All that. So the spiritual is included in that. It's included in where the source of our knowledge is and the methods in which we get this knowledge. This is very difficult to introduce or to discuss in academia due to the marginalization of all spiritual methods, really, in the social sciences. And so then that's why I've been interested in transdisciplinarity, and we're going to get into that later. So then, and so what he's saying is that when he checked and he found some errors, that it raised doubt about the integrity of my paper, but I'm able to demonstrate that my paper is excellent and that its integrity was never compromised. These errors, these are citation errors that are easily correctable, yes, and I have corrected them, and they do not constitute fraud. That's the thing. So then I suspect the articles are not, they do not in fact exist. That's what he's saying, that the sources for my work doesn't exist. Okay. That they're fabricated sources. That's the allegation. Okay. So it's potential academic fraud according to regulation A4.1E, which says that academic misconduct includes, but not limited to, activities such as attributing a statement of fact or reference to a fabricated source. So he wasn't able to find my sources because of the errors. He wasn't able to find them online when you search for a journal article. But if he had allowed me to correct my references, he would then have been able to find them and link them back to the work and see like all of my anything I attributed to as a statement of fact has an authentic source. That's and not a fabricated one. Okay. I don't even know how you fabricate. I had to learn how you fabricate sources, but it can be done, especially now with AI. So then the articles, so like down here, you see the last part, he's referring to the articles that I pretend to quote, okay? But I didn't pretend to quote articles. I quoted real, authentic research, okay? And I showed that to the committee, and still we have a problem. So this is the regulation, A4.1. And it's E that he's talking about, which is attributing a statement of fact or reference to a fabricated source. Okay. So that's what I'm defending. So the key points, the integrity of the paper. These articles do not in fact exist. They're fabricated sources. Attributing a statement of fact to a fabricated source. These are not the article the student pretends to quote. All those things are false. Okay. And if Simon Tremblay Pepin had brought his concerns to me, like if people were ethical, and if St. Paul University wasn't a fake university, and if all these people weren't fake academics, none of this would have happened. Like there wouldn't have been a formal allegation filed, and none of this stuff would have happened. It's an easy to correct situation and an easy to explain situation. But this has gotten way out of hand because none of that, reality doesn't matter to them. Okay. Only like, they have to fabricate lies in order to achieve the violence that they need to achieve. And so they're just going to be doubling down, tripling down, and, 100-dupling down, billion-dupling down. My defense. Okay, so I submitted a package. This is directly from the package that I submitted to the 3 professors from video 1. This package serves as my defense to the allegations. Okay, so technically I was late. The allegations claim that 5 of my sources are fabricated. I assert that this is unfounded. All of them are verifiable and relevant, and I showed how they're relevant to integrating Anishinaabe and Western knowledge systems for knowledge translation, healing, and reconciliation, okay, which are some of the objectives of my research. The errors in my reference list were minor citation inaccuracies, which I have corrected, easy to correct, and they do not constitute academic fraud. Furthermore, Tremblay Pepin didn't contact me to discuss his concerns or give me an opportunity to respond to them before he filed these allegations. I believe that his actions are influenced by personal vendetta stemming from my prior unresolved complaints of racism. God forbid they address and try to properly resolve my complaints of racism, which will never happen. All of this is just, instead of doing that, which led to separate and previous grievance against me, and which raises ethical concerns about his impartiality and his competence, because it's incompetent to go ahead when you're in a clear conflict of interest. Okay, you don't even understand, the clearest of conflicts, then you're incompetent. Okay, that's my view. So this package includes corrections for each reference and supporting evidence of previous use in my coursework, and demonstrating the correctability of the errors and the integrity of my work and my research and of that paper. Okay, of that proposal, which is the product of 2 years of reading, thinking, reflection, and writing. Okay. So this is a table that's pretty handy, and it was prepared by Dr. Michael Seguin, who is part of video 3. So this stuff will be discussed later, but it's handy. I didn't have to, do it myself. So what he did here is he showed the reference in the paper here on the right. So if you look, this is how it got all jumbled up. Like I said, I don't know how that happened in between 1 a.m. and 2:13 a.m. This is what happened. And, if I could go back and make sure that they were done properly, if I had, the time to revise it instead of just going to bed at 2:30 a.m. after, many long days. When you're working on a deadline, this is how it is. And then on the right, look how he says alleged corrected reference. Okay, alleged. despite all the evidence that I presented to them on May 15th is what it was, he still wants to say, and plus you should see his report, it's ridiculous. And so that's what video 3 is going to be out. So anyway, so alleged correct references, and that's it. So here we go, reference 1. So here I'm showing you my evidence, okay? So here's the incorrect citation. This is exactly what I gave the committee that reviewed my defense, okay, and that heard my defense in person. So the incorrect citation and the corrected citation. So here's my conclusion on this one, the first one. Aus's article is an excellent source for this research because it provides a theoretical and practical basis for integrating Anishinaabe and Western knowledge systems. It underscores the relational, spiritual, and land-based nature of Anishinaabe ontologies, okay? Literally that. And it critiques, which is very relevant, okay? It critiques colonial epistemological dominance, which I already talked about, and it offers insights into decolonizing methodologies and fostering reconciliation through ontological dialogue, which is another objective of my research, is using philosophy to help the dialogue, the reconciliation dialogue, okay? Because you know that philosophy is left out. They don't want us talking about philosophy, and they don't want us researching philosophy and writing about it and thinking about it, and they're not teaching the youth, and that's deliberate, everybody. Okay, the elements directly support the objectives to articulate Anishinaabe ontologies, promote philosophical inquiry, and develop integrative frameworks for cross-cultural understanding, okay? So this is the cover page of the article. That is the source of anytime I cited this, that's the source of it. It's an authentic source, and it's not fabricated. Reference 2, this one's the longest one. My research proposes transdisciplinarity, okay, to expand methodological parameters and to create a space where Anishinaabe philosophy can coexist with Western philosophy. So the idea that I got is based on research by Perez and Saavedra and Garcia and Ramirez, okay? So both references were introduced to me in INS 8103, which was in the fall of 2024 with Dr. Mackey. That all of my previous references to classes with Dr. Mackey, that's the same one. And both influenced the development of this idea in the fall of 2024. So Dr. Treble-Pepin points you to the bottom of page 13. So in his in that fraud letter, he points us to the bottom of page 13 and his other like attachments, which is the introduction for the section titled Methodology and Methods. So here I cited Garcia and Ramirez for inspiring my ideas around creating a space where Anishinaabe philosophy can coexist with Western philosophy. Perhaps it would have been clearer to include both Perez and Saavedra and Garcia and Ramirez on page 13. And in my corrected version, I did do that. However, on page 15, in the section titled Transdisciplinarity, literally titled that, and if you wanted to understand the definition, you might want to look there. So I explain in greater detail how Perez and Saavedra's article on Chicana Latina feminist methodologies inspired the inclusion of spiritually centered methodologies by adding transdisciplinarity to my approach. So in references, I incorrectly cited Garcia and Ramirez, okay? So the Perez and Saavedra one, that one was cited correctly. So I'm going to focus on the Garcia and Ramirez because the other one there was no error, identified there. Excuse me. So here we go, incorrect citation. Here we go, corrected citation. So additional supporting evidence. Both Perez and Saavedra and Garcia and Ramirez appear in Dr. Mackey's syllabus for INS 8103. Okay, so that's pretty compelling evidence that the sources are not fabricated. Prior to the assignment that is subject to this academic fraud investigation, I cited Garcia and Ramirez on Chicana feminist theory on the following occasions. 3 occasions, okay? We're going to go through that, so I'm not going to state them all. Prior to the assignment that is subjected to this academic fraud investigation, I cited Perez and Saavedra's article on Chicana and Latina feminist methodologies on the following occasions. All of these occasions here, 4, okay? Previous citations. And then the Professor Aliyah Dockery, in video 3, I'm going to be talking more about that, but during if you look at video 1 and you listen to video 1, she's the only person that asked any questions. The Professor Durand said nothing the entire meeting, 0 things. And so the only person who spoke besides Seguin was Dockery, and her question was, were your previous citations correct? And the answer is yes, and I have them here. So I didn't have them that day, but I do now. So here we go from Chris Mackey's syllabus. Okay. There's the Perez Saavedra and there's the Garcia Ramirez. Okay. Here's the cover page for Garcia Ramirez just to show like, and I submitted that to the committee so that they could look it up because the problem is he was looking up the sources and couldn't find them. But, that's why I'm making it easier for them. Instead of just giving the citation, I'm also giving the cover page. So next, so authentic sources previously cited in Design Spine 3, which I submitted to Simon Tremblay Pepin himself on March 28th, 2025. So Garcia is properly cited. Moon also on slide 26 over here. Moon I talk about on slide 26, and I'm not going to go back to this. So we're just going to remember that Moon is previously cited at the same time as these others from reference 2. And then here we go, Perez correctly cited on March 28th. And then in Design Spine 2, which was submitted to Dr. Tremblay Pepin himself on March 3rd, there's the Moon one, which we're going to talk about again on slide 26. This one is like slide 21. And Perez and Saavedra is also cited there. So authentic sources previously cited in CRR is Critical Reading Reflection 4, submitted to Dr. Mackey on October 21st. So here's me talking about Perez and Saavedra and also Oswald. You see slide 25? It's because that's where I talk about Oswald, and we're not going to go back. But you will see that I previously cited Oswald in previous work, and that demonstrates that an authentic source that I've been using over like the history of my work as it evolves. Okay, so like it's not something I fabricated at 1 a.m. on April 22nd or whatever it was. So, the second reading on womanist and Chicana feminist methodologies, it's the first time I've seen scholars including metaphysics in their methodology. And I've long been thinking, a lot of us Indigenous scholars have long been thinking about how this can be done without falling into that trap of the oppressor who devalues the knowledge that's produced by such methods, right? Like that's a real problem for us. And that's my biggest problem in working in philosophy. And so I'm seeking ways to translate the knowledge as part of my ontological inquiry, okay? That's why with Perez et al., I added transdisciplinarity, also Garcia and Ramirez, both on Chicana feminist theory, right, to my methodology in an effort to find a way to succeed at that knowledge translation. So you see, this was documented in an assignment to Dr. Mackey on October 21st, 2024. So then here on October 7th with Dr. Mackey, there's a reference to Perez and Saavedra. And so this just demonstrates that, that what I'm saying is real, it's honest, and it's true. I came up with this idea for transdisciplinarity based on the sources that I discovered in Dr. Mackey's class, and I've been thinking and writing about it since then. So authentic source previously cited in Critical Research Reflection 5 submitted to Dr. Mackey on November 11th, 2024. So although Indigenous science includes holistic methods that other scientists cannot perceive with their 5 senses, European languages are not sophisticated enough to describe these methods, and Western science is still unready to receive the data. So then Garcia and Ramirez incorporate spiritual data, and this is the second time I'm reading about Chicana feminist methodologies, and it gives me much hope for achieving something similar. Okay, so I wrote that on November 11th. And so although spiritual is perhaps, it's like the spiritual part is like, that's what I'm trying to address. So here I'm demonstrating that I have been writing about this, thinking about this, and that this is based on real sources. Okay. So my defense reference 3, this is on Oswald. Okay. Incorrect citation. Here's the corrected citation, supporting evidence. Oswald also appears in Dr. Mackey's syllabus. Okay. So prior to the assignment, I cited the same article on these occasions, 3 occasions. We're going to go through that. Conclusion. The article is a resource for my discussion about methodological practices that marginalize Anishinaabe methodologies. and it provides a framework for understanding how activist driven biases. So it's talking about like sometimes scholars get into activism and sometimes vice versa. And so there's like, there's epistemic effects, there's, ethical effects that arise from that. And that's what this is about, this article. So such like, and what I refer to in my, if you go at my thesis proposal is on my ResearchGate, and you will literally see this epistemological cherry picking that I'm referring to. And that can distort scientific inquiry. That comes from Oswald, a real authentic source that I didn't even get myself, that I retrieved from Dr. Mackey's class. So, authentic sources previously cited in a seminar presentation for K. Mackey on November 25th, 2024. Here's the Oswald. The entire citation is there. That was in a presentation that I did, like a PowerPoint. And the reason it's there is balancing knowledge with accessibility and action and activism. Okay, like how do we balance that stuff? And so here is the Oswald research appearing in Chris Mackey's syllabus for INS 8103, and down here, authentic source previously cited in a methodology paper for Dr. Mackey, and you see Oswald, the citation is there and it's correct. So then like the jumble up or the errors that occurred at April 22nd at 1 in the morning, I don't know how that happened, but I previously used the correct citation and these exist, and I've been working with them, thinking about them for this entire time, and it shows the evolution of my work. Reference 4, this one is moon. And you remember previously we saw some previous use of moon. Here's the incorrect citation, the corrected citation, additional evidence. Prior to the assignment, I used this source these 3 times. The one time you won't see here because we looked at it at slide 21. And so the conclusion is the article highlights the challenges of integrating knowledge. So this is about knowledge integration. So I'm trying to like integrate Anishinaabe knowledge and Western knowledge, right? And even though like if you look over here on the cover page, this is about indigenous marine research or like indigenous methodologies in marine research and methods. The key point that I'm interested in here is that integration piece, the knowledge integration piece, and that's why it's relevant. And so then, so it supports my research by offering tools to analyze Anishinaabe and Western knowledge systems, addressing colonial power imbalances and promoting inclusive, decolonized approaches to knowledge integration. Okay, that's why I'm interested in the Moon article. So an authentic source previously cited in my thesis proposal presentation. So this is from a PowerPoint presentation. So here on this slide, transdisciplinarity integrates Anishinaabe spirit realm with Western philosophy, and the citations are Moon and Garcia and Ramirez, okay? So that was on March 31st, 2025, almost a month before Dr. Tremblay-Pepin filed these allegations. An authentic source previously cited in Design Spine 1, that's the one that went to Amanda Wilson before I got kicked out of her class on January 29th, 2025. Okay, so, and it's okay. The research methodology, methodological approaches include holistic Anishinaabe research methodology, as well as transdisciplinarity to address philosophical questions that involve new forms of knowledge synthesis and integration. Okay, so that's the reason for Moon. Now, reference 5, Sutherland. So there's the incorrect citation, the corrected citation. Additional evidence. The Sutherland article appears in Dr. Wilson's syllabus for 8101, which was my very first class in the fall of 2023. So this is one of the oldest references that I've been working with. And so then, and prior to that, the previous use is in these 3 occasions that we're going to be talking about. The conclusion is the article supports the research by offering a model for equitable engagement through consensus, decision-making, and leadership distribution. Okay, so this is about leadership, this article. So while it also highlights the need for reflexivity to address cultural and power imbalances. So that's why I'm interested in this article. So then authentic source previously cited in week 12 in a presentation. So these are slides from a presentation. So I'm talking about social reality. I'm talking about reality and ontology of reality construction. Okay, so social reality is created by humans, and everything that currently exists in social reality can therefore be changed by humans. That's an idea that goes back to Hamas, which is really not to be confused with the terrorist organization HOMAS. It's really an old one. And so then, what are the methods that we can use to discuss our changing reality? So that's why I'm interested in this Sutherland article. That was came from week 11 of her class. So we need to analyze the construction of social meaning making and stuff like that. Okay, so if you look down at this next one, when we're talking about reality, a lot of that has to do with meaning making. Okay, now that's I could go on and on about that, and we're not going to do that today. But in any event, Sutherland week 11 we're talking about the move to the construction of social meaning. Okay, that's why I'm interested in this. So here we go from Amanda Wilson's syllabus from the fall of 2023 and Sutherland article et al. Anti-leadership in social movement organizations, the case of autonomous grassroots groups. Okay, that's where that authentic article that my research is based on for 2 years, that's where that comes from. Okay, so more sources previously cited in Research Reflection, week 11 for Amanda Wilson. So now that I'm studying Indigenous ontologies of reality construction, I am most interested in the 2014 article by Sutherland, Land, and Bohm. Okay, so I wrote that on November 22nd, 2023. That was 2 years ago. Okay, and so then the article focuses on leadership, particularly interested in how it views the function of leadership in meaning making, which is important for reality construction and social constructive forms of leadership. Okay, and so then here's another previously cited source. I cited it in a methodology paper for Dr. Mackey on December 5th. That was the final assignment. So December 5th, 2024, there it is, Oswald. Oh, wait. That's in the wrong place. Anyway, so Oswald is there. Sutherland came from Amanda Wilson's syllabus. This is some kind of mistake, but maybe later we're going to be talking about Oswald. So just remember that Oswald was cited in my final paper for Mackey on December 5th. That might be an error, but I'm not going to correct this presentation. This stuff took me 2 days. So despite presenting this evidence and providing it in, okay, that's all of the citations, thank goodness. 1 through 5, despite presenting that evidence that I just showed you now and providing it in printed packages, the Academic Integrity Committee from video 1 deliberately ignored the evidence and they added an additional fabricated allegation. I can't believe it. That's why I emailed recently the Director of Ethics and Research. We're going to talk about that in video 3. So the additional allegation has been described in no detail whatsoever, and I'm not going to be provided with an opportunity. Like, I don't understand what they're saying in that allegation or what they mean by that, and I'm not going to be provided with an opportunity to properly defend against it. So, like, these are all unethical, improper processes, all kinds of improper process, all kinds of conflict of interest, all through this investigation and the other one. Both of them are total fiascos, as you will hear me describe on video 1. So that'll be this whole thing is going to be the subject of video 3. So we're not going to go all into it. This is the report of Michael Seguin. You can look at it here, page 1 and 2, and then page 3 is over here. But like I said, I'm going to be addressing that in video 3, okay, and not here today. But there it is. You can freeze this. You can look at it. You'll see the additional fabricated allegation. So there's the first one, A4E, the fabricated source, and there's this new one where they're saying I didn't obtain ethics approval for something. For what? So like that's not been described. I don't know who's involved in that garbage, all this kind of stuff. So basically what they're saying, some of the thing they're saying in this report is that they've determined the sources are fabricated, and they're like whether I willingly fabricated it or if I unwillingly fabricated it. Now I had to think about that for a while. How do you unwillingly fabricate a source, right? So like, I mean, I'm not dishonest, and I'm not a piece of I'm not a sewer rat, and I don't like constantly try to get away with things. And see, that's the suggestion. The suggestion is always that Indigenous students are trying to get away with stuff, and that's racist, okay? Because we do our work, and our work is good, okay? So, did I willingly cite fabricated sources? No. Did I unwillingly cite? fabricated sources? No. I guess how would that be done? Okay, let's think of an example. So say that you were not doing your work honestly and it wasn't based on 2 years of work and instead it was thrown together at the last minute and you had to like concoct something, or you had to give sometimes students work together on this kind of thing or whatever. So say you cited something that you got from somewhere but you didn't know that that source was fabricated. Like when you cited it, even though you probably didn't even read it and even though you probably didn't even do the work, like really, you're citing it, but you thought it was an authentic, and it turns out later that they checked it and they found out that it wasn't authentic, and you didn't know that because somebody else had fabricated it. But still, in that case, you've unwillingly used a fabricated source. That's not what I did here either. Okay. So correctable errors are not fabrications and they are not fraud, okay? My sources are authentic. I demonstrated that to the committee, and I'm demonstrating that in this video. I have demonstrated previous use of the same sources, and it's ridiculous to continue to say that I did anything that was fraudulent, like or that I fabricated anything. Like I said, those errors, I don't know how they got jumbled up, but they're easy to correct, and it's easy to go. Anyone that wants to go to my research proposal in my ResearchGate, and anybody that wants to look up this research that I've showed you on this video and go and read it and try to connect the dots, will easily see the relevance, and that the statements of fact that I'm making in my research proposal and the sources that I'm referring to are authentic. Okay? And they're lying and they're fabricating falsehoods. So conclusion, as you can see, my sources are authentic, and my research proposal is the product of 2 years of work. As you can see, these processes are not real. These investigations are not real, okay? This is a fake university. These are fake academics. This is all fake, and it's a sham scam. This is sham scams. Academia, all over the place, sham scams, okay? No matter how good my work is, and no matter how much evidence I provide to defend the integrity of my excellent research, they will ignore my efforts. They will dismiss my evidence. They will erase me from the university by any means possible. And hopefully they will genocide me. That is what they hope, okay? And they're genociders. And they are heartless, and they are soulless, and they are despicable people. That's the truth. That's why I posted video 1, okay? I thought a lot about posting video 1, whether or not I was going to do that. And the reason I'm doing that is because no matter what I do, no matter how well I show, like, the most concrete, like, you show it on a balance of probabilities, you show it beyond a reasonable doubt, and still they erase it, and still they impose sanctions based on fabrications, based on like delusions that they are fabricating themselves and then projecting onto you. Like, no matter what I do, that's going to be the case. That's why I have to, what did I say? So the only way to defend myself in the face of a fake university full of fake academics who don't give a GD about ethics or reconciliation with Indigenous peoples is to publicly document their misconduct, which is unbecoming of academics and unbecoming of a Canadian university. And here's like, I don't know if you guys know, but in grad school, there's 3 semesters. There's fall, there's winter, and there's spring. And you have to register and you have to pay tuition, and you have obligations to fulfill as part of every semester. So here's like unofficial figures. These are close enough figures to what's been paid in tuition, and the total is $17,500. Okay. And we don't pay $17,500. Like, I know that's cheap because this is a Mickey Mouse University, but still, we don't pay $17,500 so that our good work that we've been working on for 2 years could be completely erased based on falsehoods and fabrications. And then we're genocided and kicked out of the university by any means possible. No. And so then I have to defend my reputation. I have to defend my dignity, and no matter which way I leave this university, I'll be leaving this university with my dignity, okay? And I'm going to have to sue them for extracting this money from me. You know what usually happens with somebody with my experience? Go on my LinkedIn and look at my work experience. Usually what happens with someone with my experience is called an expedited track. There may be other words for it, but but usually what they'll do is they'll take a PhD with that, or a master's, like a PhD student that's coming in, with all that experience that I have, and they give them an expedited track on their PhD journey where they don't have to complete this coursework, right? So yeah, you register, and yeah, like you're technically in a course code and you're paying tuition, but you don't have to do that coursework. And that alleviates a whole lot of stuff. Like, because see, like the experience is different between me and everybody else, right? So it's like this. They pretend like it's not, and they even put the people with like that are way down here, they try to act like those people are above me. Okay, when they're not remarkable students, and some of them have only been in the country for a couple of years, and they don't even have proficient English. Okay, like these are the circumstances that are literally going on. So then, in my view, they like, I've seen that violence. Like, I've seen them offer an expedited track to an unremarkable student and ignore the Indigenous student as part of their violence. That's not really what's happening here. But like I said, all these things are used for violence. And in my view, they've extracted that $17,500, and they're going to have to pay that back. Because like I'm going to have to sue them for all this. Like for trying to defame my for trying to ruin my research and defame my reputation and all this kind of stuff. Why are they doing this? Again, so we're going back to what I was saying before. Why are they doing this? And I want you to remember this point. That's why I'm bringing it back. They resent me. They're inadequate. How dare I try to do real Indigenous research? Because I refuse to accept the devaluing and their rewriting of it, whereas many other PhD students do accept it. They have no other choice in their view. Because I don't guzzle the indignities like they do on the regular. And to ruin, that's a big reason why they resent me. And to ruin my research and my reputation, I'm going to have to defend against that, and I'm going to have to litigate because of that, and to inflict as much trauma onto me as possible, and to genocide me. So that's it. And thank you very much. I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to stop this video. And I'm sorry that it was so long. And thank you so much for watching. This will be the longest part, the video 2. Video 3 will be much better. And like you said, like you would see in video 1, that was the quickest meeting I've ever had of something so serious. It was like less than 20 minutes, that meeting. So then, like that just shows again that everything is fake and these are scams. And everyone needs to know that. Canadians need to know that academia is fake. These universities are fake. These academics are fake. Ethics are not real. None of this stuff is real. It's all used for violence. They change their policies according to how they need to inflict violence and leverage, all kinds of improper and unethical things. And this is what you need to know. And also I needed to show you that my references are authentic, and I needed to defend myself in this way because no matter what I do, they're going to full speed ahead with their violence based on lies and fabrications. And this is my only way to show everybody that I'm not a liar, and that I'm not dishonest, and that I'm an ethical First Nations scholar and researcher, and many of us are. And this is how we're treated. And so it's important that Canadians know that. Thank you.